the men's basketball team. Thank you for coming. I want to give a real quick run of show what we're going to do here. We're going to hear from some of our special guests. We're going to unveil that beautiful statue, take a whole bunch of photos, and then afterwards, all of our invited guests will be headed in through these doors right here underneath the basketball hallway for the private reception. And then media for any interviews and stuff, we're going to go in the rotunda over here for some interviews and some questions afterwards. So we won't do any Q&A out here. We'll just hear from our guests, and then we'll take a bunch of photos. So without further ado, we get started. I want to introduce our MC for the night, a Ohio State basketball legend in his own right, a former captain, and a great ambassador for our program, Mr. Bill Hosket.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you very much, and thank you all for attending. This is really a historic event for Ohio State basketball, and one that is extremely well-deserved and maybe overdue. I don't know. We won't go there. So, Jerry Lucas is about as special as any player has ever been, and without a doubt, the best player that's ever played for Ohio State, best player that's ever played in the Big Ten. And I say that even after his playing days are 60-plus years over. No one has equaled and accomplished what Jerry did during his college career. Just unbelievable. You know, Ohio State's been around since 1870. We only have 5 full-length statues anywhere on this campus. William Oxley Thompson, the president for 26 years, has one over at the library. I actually used to see that, Patty. I used to go to the library. Woody Hayes has one over at the athletic facility, which is commonly now called the Woody. Arch Griffin, right here, has one in front of the stadium. And of course, the great Jesse Owens has one in front of his own stadium. So, and today we will add a 5th when we unveil the Jerry Lucas statue, which is great. You know, I hail from Dayton, Ohio, and grew up there, played ball there before coming to Ohio State, and Middletown was about 20 miles south of Dayton, and that's where the legend started for Jerry Lucas. And won 76 straight high school games. Most of you know the story that any of you that were around in that era, he was a household name. There was no ESPN, there was no internet, but in Ohio, as Fred Taylor used to say, if you could hear thunder and see lightning, you knew who Jerry Lucas was. And there's a lot of truth to that. The first time I saw Luke play was a high school all-star game. I was about 12 years old. I had never seen him play in high school. There were 4 starters on the Ohio All-Stars. Mel Knoll was one, Jerry Lucas, John Havlicek, and I think Gerhardt was the 4th starter that was all headed to Ohio State. The 5th starter was a guy named Bud Olson, who went to my high school, Dayton Belmont, and went off to play at Louisville and then was a teammate of Jerry's on the Cincinnati Royals. So as this game progressed, Ohio is beating the Kentucky All-Stars pretty handily. And there's a jump ball situation. And in that era, we didn't have the alternating possession. You actually jumped it up to the closest circle. And it was the free throw line at the Ohio end. And Jerry was jumping against the kid that ended up going to Western Kentucky for the Kentucky All-Stars named Harry Todd. And Harry Todd was about 6 feet 8 inches tall. And the ref threw the ball up, and Luke, as opposed to tipping to one of his 4 teammates, he's at the free throw line, he tipped it in the basket. I'm only 12 years old. I said, that guy's pretty good. I've never seen it done since. No one ever saw it done before, and I don't know if Luke ever tried it again, but he's 1 for 1. A heck of a play. You know most of his career. A lot of it will be documented here today, but first guy in, oops. I know enough about him, I don't need that. So he's the first guy in the history of the game to win a high school state championship, a national college championship, an Olympic gold medal, and an NBA championship. Only done by one person. He was the first to do it. And the first time I met Jerry in person, I was being recruited by Ohio State, and they took me to the faculty club for lunch, Frank Truitt, our freshman coach, and Coach Taylor, and I shook hands with Jerry Lucas, and my hand disappeared. Now, I have fairly big hands, but he's got some paws on him, I want you to know. That was rebounding. He was totally unselfish at the offensive end, but at the defensive end, when that ball went up, it was his. And Jerry set rebounding records that I don't think will ever be touched. In the pros, he had 40 in one game playing forward. Twice in his career, Jerry averaged 20 points and 20 rebounds a game in the NBA. The only person that ever did that was Wilt Chamberlain. So Lucas's rebounding was almost more phenomenal than his scoring, and he scored plenty, believe me. A very gifted player and always cared for his teammates, and they cared for him. I think we have a couple of his teammates. I saw Dick Fury, Mel Knoll. Would you please stand? From the national championship team. And if any of the other former players are here from any era, please stand or put your hand up in the air. So, Jerry, you've done a lot for a lot of people. You set the bar very high for all of us. No one's ever quite gotten there, but what you did was absolutely amazing. And to celebrate your special day, we have some very special guests here with us. First up would be Governor Mike Dewine, who's been in public service for 40 years and 6 years as our governor. Yeah, 40 years, I had to mention it. Come on up, Mike.
Jerry, Fran and I are here representing the people of the state of Ohio, and we're just so very proud of you. Throughout your career, whether it was with the Middies and Middletown, whether you started there on Ohio State, then the Olympics, amazing, and then of course the NBA with your career there, you've always made us proud. You've represented Ohio just exceedingly well. No one could have done a better job, and so we're very, very grateful. But I'm also here as a fan. If I can be a fan, I can be a fan. I'm a fan. I'm still a fan. So Fran and I were in junior high school, and we lived in Yellow Springs, grew up in Yellow Springs, which is near Dayton. We watched Dayton TV every night. Every night on the sports, it was Jerry Lucas. And most of you weren't alive then, but you never saw high school basketball on TV until the Middletown Middies came along and Jerry Lucas. A lot of the games televised. People watched them. It was a big deal. On the radio, the whole Miami Valley would listen to the Dayton station that broadcast so many of your games. So that was just, as a kid, a real thrill. And then, of course, on to Ohio State, that great team. And I asked you this before. I'm not sure if you gave me a straight answer, but the rumor was, even got down to Yellow Springs, that the freshman team was beating the varsity team when you were the freshman. And for those of you who don't remember, weren't alive, it used to be freshman. It was a freshman team, and then you had 3 years as varsity. And everybody around Columbus, the story was, well, I don't tell you that, but that freshman team is beating the varsity. And I think they were. Most times? Yeah, most time. All right. But then, the Olympics. Again, I was 13. Summer Olympics, big deal. and we followed what the USA team was doing. And it's been written, and I'm sure it's true, there never has been an amateur basketball team as good as that team. There never, ever will be. If you think about, Jerry Lucas, Jerry West, Oscar Robertson, Walt Bellamy, and on, it was just an absolutely phenomenal team. And you represented the United States so very, very, very well. So I'm here as a fan, representing the state of Ohio, and we're grateful for all that you've done. And it was a real fun to get to meet you a couple years ago. Our friend Steve Evans introduced us down in Gallia County, and I appreciated that time together very, very much. Thank you.
Next up is the president of our university, Theodore Carter, better known as Ted Carter, a former man that spent nearly 40 years in the Navy, trained the Top Gun pilots in the Navy. I clarified the number today. I think it's 2,016 landings on an aircraft carrier, a record that will never be broken, he said. I said, it's just like Jerry Lucas. I mean, he's been here almost 2 years, and we're very thankful that he is here. A great, great leader, President Carter. You're up.
Wow, what a big day. What a great day. What a day to honor a one-of-a-kind, a Buckeye, a legend. And we have perfect weather for this. Jerry, how perfect is this? I'm just thrilled. Linda and I are just thrilled to be here, to be a small part of honoring Jerry Lucas. As we already heard, he's the only man to ever win a high school championship, a college championship, an NBA championship, and have a gold medal. When Jerry graduated from Middletown High School, he was recruited at 150 different colleges across the nation. 150. That's probably a record too. But he came to Ohio State. And if you go back and look at our history, we've only won one national championship, and it was under his hand. We went to 3 under his leadership. He was a 3-time All-American, 2-time Player of the Year. And the year that he won the national championship in 1960, after being exhausted, he had to try out for the Olympics. At 6'8", he was the 3rd shortest center on the team, and somehow convinced the coach to be the starter when they beat Brazil, maybe one of the best games ever played. And of course, his iconic jersey, number 11, one of only 5 to be retired, hangs from the rafters. But maybe the most important thing that we could say, besides his NBA championship with the Knicks in 1973 and all the other basketball accolades, is this one simple fact. Out of the 150 colleges that recruited Jerry Lucas, only one talked to him about academics, and that was Ohio State. And he was known to say that's why he came to Ohio State. It wasn't just because he was Ohio born and bred and played here, because he cared about academics. And you got a lot of A's in college. In fact, Woody asked him to tutor our football players. And although I could go on and on and on, I just want to tell you one more amazing fact that probably not so many people know about Jerry Lucas. He had a special skill. He used to do this thing called the phone book trick. Now, some people might know what that is, but Jerry could actually go into the Manhattan white pages, memorize 50 pages out of the white book, and regurgitate every single name. That is one amazing man right there. Jerry, on behalf of all of us here at The Ohio State University, our 630,000 living alumni, the millions of fans who have adored you all of their lives, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for your constant pursuit of excellence and all that you have achieved. Go Bucks!
I believe, and they were favored to beat Ohio State, a group of sophomores, along with Dick Furry and Joe Roberts and Larry Siegfried. Not a bad cast. But at halftime, Pete Newell got on his team and said, "Hey, we've got to get on the boards." And he looked at Darrell Emhoff, his center. And Darrell said, "Coach, they've only missed twice, and I got them both." Ohio State was 16 out of 18 in the first half. So he also mentioned the mental games that Jerry plays, the memory games, and the fact that you can give Jerry a word and he can spell it back to you in alphabetical order. Now, my teammate that also was one of his teammates, Bill Bradley on the Knicks, always asked me, "Jerry, what's Jerry going to do with that in later life?" That would only come from Senator Bradley. But Jerry, today you're going to get an AES TTU. That's a statue. That's that's the only word I've got, Luke. So. Huh? You do it. It's in alphabetical order. I went to class, Jerry. We all did. Next up, our athletic director. Been here almost 18 months. He's been in the Division I level for 30 years of experience. He's the athletic director of Ohio State that oversees the largest comprehensive athletic department in the country, with an annual budget of $300 million. Ross Bjork.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Governor Dewine and Fran, for being here, and thank you, Linda and President Carter, for being here. What a great day. We ordered up the weather. That was planned, right? So I'm not sure who takes credit for that. But, you know, we have an Ohio State gathering, so we have to do something to get the crowd going. OH! Okay, now we're talking. Game weekend in many of our sports. So this is a very special day for The Ohio State University, Ohio State Athletics, and especially our basketball program, and really for all of our fans and our donors who love this great university. Today we really gather to celebrate one of the greatest athletes, but also one of the finest ambassadors ever to wear the scarlet and gray, Mr. Jerry Lucas. I had a chance to meet Jerry my very first day in town, March 2nd of last year, against our rival. We were playing our rival here at the Schott, and I had a chance to meet Jerry that day. That was very special. My mom grew up in Northwest Ohio and always talked about Jerry Lucas. And so to be able to meet you that day, that was really, really cool. There's a lot of people that made today possible, and I know Alan will get up here and talk about some, but on behalf of the athletic department, I want to make sure we acknowledge the steering committee. Alan Stockmeister, Gary Schottenstein, right? Bill Hosket, Bob Peterson, Bruce Peterson, Bill Lewis, and Ryan White. Would you guys at least wave or stand? This, this vision, Alan brought this to us last fall, somewhere in there, right after I just started. He's like, "Hey, I know you just started. You probably don't know anything about building statues on campus, but I got this idea." And I said, "Talk to Mike Pinner." Mike Pinner can get this done, but I really want to thank all the donors who made this possible. If anyone donated, would you please raise your hand as well? We want to thank the donors who made this possible. Absolutely. I know Bill did it, but one of the things I've really been impressed with, and Coach Diebler is continuing this, is the brotherhood of Buckeye basketball. The things that we do to bring our former players together, it's unlike any. So would our former basketball players please stand and be recognized once again? That means a lot to our program. Wave. Lawrence, I see you over there. That means a lot. It means a lot that you give back. I know Archie was recognized early, but Archie, thank you for being here. That was really fun to dedicate your 2 statues last year, one at the Rose Bowl and one outside the shoe. I also want to thank Tony Rosselli Construction, for making sure this got put together. And then where's Alan, our sculptor, Alan Cottrell? Thank you so much. I know you'll be recognized as well. So, this statue isn't just a monument. It sends a message. It tells everyone who walks through these doors that greatness lives here. in that the people, the tradition, the excellence are core values that will never run out of time. We know about Jerry's accomplishments, 3 straight NCAA championship games, of course, the 1960 national champion. He came here with tremendous expectations, being a high school phenom coming out of Middletown, Ohio, tremendous expectations. The stories around Jerry are legendary. Those that watched him play recall he had this intelligence, right? This athletic grace. He knew where the ball was on the court. He could go get a rebound before anybody else knew where that ball was headed. He made the hard look easy. And he did it with a quiet confidence that defines what it means to be a Buckeye. But we know his success didn't stop there. Olympic gold, NBA All-Star, NBA championship, Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame inductee. We'll let the helicopter go by. So back to those expectations. He delivered on every single one of those expectations. Jerry is the ultimate champion. That's what we honor today. Not just the athlete, but the example that can and will inspire every young player who dreams of putting on that Buckeye jersey. It reminds us that greatness is born of preparation, discipline, and the love for something bigger than yourself. We are proud to say that Jerry's legacy continues to guide our program. His standard of excellence sets the tone for what we expect, not only in basketball, but across all of Ohio State athletics, those 36 sports that you mentioned. So to Jerry, the Lucas family, on behalf of Ohio State athletics, our coaches, student athletes, staff, and fans, thank you. Thank you for what you've accomplished, for how you represented this university, the pride that you brought to generations of Buckeyes. May this statue be a permanent reminder that firm friendship and greatness that is built here will last forever. Congratulations, Jerry, and go Buckeyes.
Long enough for us to finish practice.
Not a problem. A guy that won the state championship right in this building when he was in high school playing for his father, and also played with his brother who could shoot it just a little bit. The head coach of the Buckeyes, of these characters we see behind us, Mr. Jake Diebler.
Thank you all very much for being here. First and foremost, to Mrs. Fran and Governor Dewine for being here. All right, Mrs. Linda and President Carter for being here. Ross and all of the members of our athletic department for being here. Our basketball family. You know, we have a saying every single time we huddle up, whether it's in the game, whether it's before practice, after practice, we end every single huddle in our program with family. 1, 2, 3, family. And what a great representation of how strong that family is with our former players here today. And I'm gonna piggyback off of Ross. If you guys seriously, please, because you know what you mean to us, what you mean to these guys, what you mean to me, will you please stand one more time so we can acknowledge you and what you mean to our program. I see some of you guys. Stand up, please. Being from Ohio and being the head coach at Ohio State for its men's basketball program is a dream come true. And when you grow up in the state of Ohio, you hear some legendary names. Jerry Lucas was always one of those. Clearly, I didn't get to see him play in person, but the stories that I was told, and more specifically, even as you walk the halls of this building and you get a chance, all right, to truly learn the history of this program, the excellence that has been mentioned, it's second to none. As a young boy growing up in Northwest Ohio, you knew the name Jerry Lucas. Clearly, we were different types of players. He was known for his hook shot and his rebounding. Not so much for me. But you did know that when it came down to, you know, what it means to be a champion, you were taught at an early age that Jerry Lucas embodied that. When you think of Ohio State basketball and you think of its pinnacle and the standard that has been set, it's because of Jerry Lucas and his teammates as to why we have that standard. We talk a lot about in our program about meeting the standard, and certainly there's a requirement of that on the court, and we don't shy away from that. But there's also a standard of excellence as a person that we work very hard on helping develop with the young men in our program, and we recruit to bringing guys in who embody what it means to be not only a great basketball player, but a great individual, a great future husband, future father, future leader, and future man. And Jerry is not the only former player we have that embodies that, but certainly helped pave the way for so many of us to come in and have unbelievable tradition, unbelievable facilities, something to work towards every single time we take the court. Jerry played a pivotal role in all that. He has embodied what excellence means in our program. We strive for that excellence every single day. But beyond all that, since I became the head coach at Ohio State, I'm honored to call Jerry a friend. Whether we're playing on the West Coast at a game that ends well after midnight East Coast time, great wins, tough losses, I can always count on a text message from my friend Jerry. And that means so much to me. It means so much to know that our former players are watching, that they care how we perform, that they are invested in the success of the 127th team in the history of Ohio State basketball. But no one embodies that more than the late night text messages that I can count on sometimes what, not very often, hopefully this year, but what sometimes is a lonely walk back to the locker room, or when we're going in and we just got done celebrating a great win, Jerry Lucas' text message is there every single time. So on behalf of our program, thank you for embodying the excellence that we strive for each and every day. And thank you very much for being my friend.
Thank you, Coach. And all you guys, great seeing you.
Attention to that. No, I want to begin by acknowledging our committee. A lot of the things I was going to say has already been said, and I can repeat a lot of it, but for the sake of time and pictures and all the celebration afterwards, I'll just move along. But I want to recognize Bill Hosket, of course, Bob Peterson. Come on, Bob. Bruce Peterson. Gary Schottenstein, Bill Lewis, I saw Bill standing way over there, and Ryan Wright. Please stand. So these guys are the people that we met with time after time, raising money, doing everything it took to get this accomplished. For those committee members, it was a labor of love. Love for the university, love for our sport, love for a great athlete, but also love for the man himself. For those of you who do not know Jerry, we call him Dr. Memory. He is probably one of the smartest individuals you will ever encounter. He's got a brilliant mind. He's a man of great faith, a father that his children describe as the best father a child could ever have. And yet with all, and of course, his greatness on the court. But with all those being said, he is humble and grateful. Good man. For the donors, would you all stand? Because you made this possible. We want to thank you for your generosity. Yes, the donations come from our wallets, but where do they start? They start right here in the mind, and they give from the heart. That's what you all did. When you think about this project, and Ross mentioned a minute ago, I called President Carter, and I called Ross, and then I called Jake Diebler, and I called David Egley. Where was David? There he is. Called David over there and said, how can we put this thing together, and what does it take to get it done? Well, in Ohio State fashion, they didn't just help, they provided a team. And that team with Michael Penner. Michael's back in here somewhere. Scott Dixon. Where's Scott? Back over there. David Egelhoff, Dan Cloran. Dan, I saw Dan right over here. Colin Thompson, Tracy Hedrick. Tracy, I saw Tracy over there. And Amy Dingus, who took care of all of our credentialing and things like that. Thank all of you, because it takes an effort to do this. And the other part of this is yes, we want to recognize the man, but we also had other reasons. We wanted to highlight our basketball program. We hope this gives youth and our student athletes an image to celebrate and to imitate. Now, Alan Cottrell, would you please stand? Alan is a sculptor. I called Alan. It was kind of funny because I called Alan and I said, hey, we don't have any money yet. But we need money, so we're going to get you some money. Can you please start? So Ryan and I made the trek up to Alan's place up in Zanesville, and we were able to sit down with the man, no hesitation whatsoever. Actually, Susan and I was in Florida for a little bit, and we called him from there many times. I was just giving him an update. Hey, we made, we got $5,000. Now we got 10. So we had a goal to get to, and we did. We not only did we get there, we surpassed it. So that was real. That's a tribute to all of us standing here. So anyhow, I just would like to introduce a couple of Jerry's intimate guests, special guests, his wife, Sherry. Sherry, would you stand? Okay, and his children. Let's start with Matt Lucas, Jeff Lucas, Julie, where's Julie? Kanan, right here, and the small guy in the family at 6'10", JJ. So Jerry and family, we thank you for your contributions to the university and to this basketball program.
Get our historian up here. Come on, Bruce Peterson. You're at top drawer. Yeah, you're going up.
Everything has been said has been wonderful, but you know what? I'd like for you to all stand up. All the people that are sitting right now. I'd like, if you can, please stand up, except you, Alan. Sit down. You sit down, Alan. He was our vicar. He was our leader. He came to me and he said, we had talked about doing this for Jerry. And he said, we're going to get it done. And in life, there are a lot of people that talk, but he was a doer. And he got this done. And so he deserves a standing ovation and applause from all of us. I thought about what I'd say. They've spoken about all of Jerry's accomplishments. But you know what? Today I speak for the elementary school kids, the junior high kids, the high school kids, and the college kids that were living in the 1950s, the late 1950s, and the early 1960s. Jerry, you created a memory for us that has lasted a lifetime. Your accomplishments were unbelievable. I think recently you've seen ESPN and Sports Illustrated did analytics. They named Jerry the greatest college basketball player of all time. I can remember going to the first game against Wake Forest on December 1st, 1959. We were behind at halftime, came back and won 77-69. I'm 10 years old. And I'm walking out, and this guy goes, well, he only scored 16 points. The guy behind him said, yeah, but he had 28 rebounds. But I want to tell you about a special day, March 21st, 1960. It's midnight. Back then, the tournament was played on a Friday night and a Saturday night. The Ohio State-Cal game, and again, as been pointed out, Cal was defending national champion. They were playing in their backyard at the Cal Palace in San Francisco. And everybody just thought this was a knockover. They're going to beat this younger Ohio State team that had traveled all the way to California. Well, I'm 10 years old. My grandmother makes me take a nap and wakes me up at 11 o'clock and says, okay, you can watch the game. And as Bill pointed out, actually, Bill, it was 16 out of 19. But that's what they shot. Mel Knoll, right here, shot 6 out of 7 from the field. We beat Cal 75-55 that night for the national championship.
I had Mel 6 or 6.
Jerry still holds, think about this, 64 years later, this coming to 2026, he still holds the best field goal percentage ever in the Big Ten Conference 64 years later, and the best rebounding average. Think about that. That is incredible. 64 years, and no one has broken that. And there have been a lot of great players. In fact, the greatest compliment he got was from his late teammate here, and who turned out to be considered the greatest basketball coach in the history of the Big Ten Conference, Bob Knight. Bob Knight said, he is the best player that ever played in the Big Ten Conference. And his other teammate, John Havlicek, said, if anyone would know about that, it was Bob Knight. So Bob Knight called you the greatest ever in the conference, which is terrific. I do want to mention someone's name that hasn't been mentioned so far tonight. Because I asked Jerry one time, I said, who was the best coach you ever had, or coaches? And he goes, there are two guys that were very, very special. And that was his coach here, Fred Taylor, who won 7 Big Ten championships, 4 Final Fours. And his family's here today because I think Jana, are you out here? Jana, Dave Rohr, rest of your family members, would you please stand? Fred's family, please stand. Fred Taylor was a class act, and Jerry will be the first one to tell you how fortunate he was to play for him. Jerry also was the first person ever named by Sports Illustrated as Athlete of the Year, first collegiate athlete that was ever named in December of 1961. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He, to me, is just a wonderful person, and Mel Knoll, his teammate, once told me they played against each other in high school. And they went down to Mill. They never come up here to play at Columbus East, did they? You had to go down to play the middies down there. But Mel told me, he said, I didn't know how he would be as a teammate because he was such a superstar in high school. And I was wondering how it would be. They were in the same class. But he said, he was the most unselfish teammate that he ever played with. Here, this 3-time All-American, 2-time National Player of the Year. And very similar to you, Archie, they just didn't have a Naismith or a Wooden Award back then, or he would have won those awards like you won 2 Heismans. So, Jerry, we're very blessed. I have a great honor of introducing you to come up here and speak to everybody. Come on up. No. Here he goes. But, Jerry, we love you. Buckeye Nation loves you.
Wow, what a day. I tell you, I think of today, and this is the greatest honor I've ever had, bar none. Nothing can come close to what this means to me today. I look over there at that plaque, and I see things that happened in high school, college, Olympics, and the pros, and my heart's filled with gratitude and thanks. I first of all think of my parents, Mark and Jean Lucas, and my brother Roy. They loved me and knew me before I became Jerry Lucas, the basketball player. And I appreciate that so very, very much. You know, and as my life went on, I want to talk about 3 pursuits in my life today briefly. And I think you'll discover and understand why. As a young boy, I had an incredibly active mind, unbelievably active mind. When I learned to count, I counted everything I saw. I mean everything. A number of pieces of glass on a chandelier, bricks on a wall, paint strips in highways, cracks in sidewalks. The governor will be, well, you'll be glad to know that there are 132 paint strips in every mile on the highways in Ohio. So I counted everything I saw. Later, when I learned to spell, I began to spell every word I ever saw in alphabetical order. It's been mentioned here today. And just to keep my mind active and busy, my mind had to do something. The Ohio State University, EHTHIOO, AESTT, AIINRSTUVY. I'm glad you found out how to do that. So my mind was always active, always busy. And the two pursuits in my life that I followed my entire life began in the 4th grade. I began to play basketball as a 4th grader at Sherman Grade School, and there's a friend of mine here today who I started kindergarten with. Yeah, I've only known him 80 years. But I began to play basketball as a 4th grader at Sherman Grade School in Middletown. I was on the 6th grade team. I was tall. I wasn't a very good player, but I loved the game. And I began to work very, very hard, starting that next summer, using my mind in unique ways. I began to work 12 to 15 hours every day to pursue becoming as good a basketball player as I can. And I was always wanted to be part of a team. You know, a team is a team. It's not an individual, and that was very, very important to me. So I worked hard. I was able to accomplish certain things as a basketball player. But also the same year in the 4th grade, something started that I pursued my entire life and still am pursuing today. Our teacher came in one day and she said, "Today, class, I'm going to teach you how to remember the names of the Great Lakes by seeing a picture in your mind." That was the first and last time a teacher or a professor ever taught me anything using a picture, because they didn't know how. But here's what she said: imagine the Great Lakes in your mind and see homes floating all over the Great Lakes. And she said, here's the reason why. Homes is spelled H-O-M-E-S, and those are the beginning letters of the 5 Great Lakes: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. I thought to myself, I'll never forget that as long as I live. You know? And then the next thought that went through my mind was the beginning for me of a lifetime of work. I thought to myself, what if I could picture everything I needed to learn? And the game was on, believe me. And I followed that pursuit for my entire lifetime. I'm still following it today. And then, you know, as I said, these memories are great, but that is to me, far more important than anything I ever did as a basketball player, because I know how much it can help people. The other great thing that happened in my life happened the year I retired from professional basketball. I had a friend in New York where I was playing with the New York Knicks. We had just won the world championship. And he came to me one day and he started to talk to me and he said, "Have you ever read the Bible?" I said, "No, I've never read one word of the Bible." He said, "If I gave you a Bible, would you start to read it?" I said, "Absolutely," and he did. And I began to read that Bible, and the pursuit that I had had in so many other things the same way. And as I read more and more and more, it touched me very, very deeply. And I read that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. I thought, what is the truth? If I'm going to be set free, what is the truth? And Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me." And I realized that I needed to know who that man was. I needed to know as much as possible as I could about him. And I retired from professional basketball to find out what God wanted me to do with my life. The next year, I studied 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. I studied the Bible and I memorized the entire New Testament. It made a remarkable, remarkable difference in my life. And I prayed every day that the Holy Spirit would lead me and guide me into what I should do with my talents. And I realized what they were, and I began to do them. It was It was for education, make a difference in education. And I began to pursue it with just as hard as I possibly could. And one of the things that I began to do was think about literacy. And we have a terrible problem with literacy in our nation and our country today, which can be solved, and which I believe I have solved. But as I went into classrooms, talked to hundreds of teachers, I read 400 textbooks in 2 years. The most boring thing I've ever done in my life. But I wanted to make sure I didn't overlook any rules or anything. And so as I worked and I learned, I'd go into classrooms, and if you've ever been in a kindergarten or first grade classroom, you see the letters of the alphabet around the top of the room, don't you? Then you see pictures underneath them, apple, ball, cat, dog. Totally wrong. What do those words say? They say abacada. We're not trying to teach them the abacadas, folks. We're trying to teach them the ABCs. In my opinion, the picture under the letter A should say A, and it should look exactly like the letter A character that would do that. And I began to work diligently. And people don't know, someday they will, there are only 3 things a letter can do in the English alphabet. That's it. And if you know those 3 things and you can picture them, boy, are you on your way to being a good learner. A reader. And if you can see every sound that every letter makes in the alphabet, what a difference it'll make. I've pursued that my whole life. I'm working on it today, still every day of my life. I work on creating, putting it into a format so that it can be in a website that can be used by schools and people who want to learn. So those really have been the pursuits of my lifetime. I am so thankful and grateful, as I've told Alan so many times. When I heard this, my heart was touched so deeply. And I am so thankful and grateful to be here today. I'm glad that God gave me the strength to be here today. And I'm not finished. I'm not finished. There's more to do, and I'm going to get it done. I wish I had more help, but I don't. Can't avail myself to get that, but I'm going to get it done, and it's going to make a tremendous difference. I thank all of my family for being here, all of my friends. I see so many familiar faces. I thank you for being here. It's a tremendous, tremendous honor for me. I will never, ever forget it. And I have a pretty good memory. And I'll never, ever forget you too. Thank you so very, very much.
The time has come. Alan, are we ready for the family? We are ready. Would you unveil the statue, please? The Lucas family. Here we go. Here. Oh my.
Just use the cane. Just use the cane.
I think that's the only way you'd ever get anything out of Luke's hands. Congratulations, Jerry, and thank you one and all for being here. We appreciate it.
And now if we could have our speakers make their way to the statue. And we'll take a picture. The next group that we'll be taking a photo with is the Board of Trustees.
You want me over there?
Yes. And now the Board of Trustees, if you can.
Maybe it works. Maybe you do it. Yeah, it's true. And then we were thinking about what EHORS.